The Galactic Council's decree echoes through silent comms. No alien ship could visit human worlds. No human ship could leave human space. Earth stands completely isolated. But long-range sensors detect strange ships approaching our borders, beings outside Council control. Are they threat or salvation? This is how humanity's exile began, and how we became the last hope for every species the galaxy threw away. The starship Void Runner tore through the fabric of folded space, its return from deep reconnaissance complete. Jake Morrison watched the real space readout stabilize as the ship dropped from FTL. His crew waited for the routine colony check-ins that should have begun immediately. 17 green status icons should have illuminated his command panel. They remained dark, silent. Not a single colony beacon answered the automated hail. 7 years of mission data, 17 worlds surveyed for expansion suitability, all rendered meaningless in the moment of return. Morrison's hand hovered over the comm panel, the silence more unnerving than any emergency signal. 3 lunar patrol ships intercepted them before they reached Mars orbit. Their weapon ports glowed with active targeting systems. Admiral Hayes appeared on the main screen, her face etched with lines that hadn't been there 7 years prior. Her voice carried the weight of command decisions no officer should ever face. She transmitted the Galactic Council's decree directly to Morrison's bridge. The words hit like physical blows. No alien visitation, no human departure. Complete isolation. The Void Runner became a prisoner returning to a prison cell, its solar system now its cage. Morrison's crew processed the news in stunned silence. Navigation routes deleted themselves from the system as the Council's restrictions took effect. Former exploration specialists became permanent residents of a single star system. Their mission badges now felt like artifacts from another civilization. Hayes maintained weapons lock throughout the brief exchange, her eyes showing the conflict between protocol and compassion. She transmitted the full isolation order package, every regulation, every restriction, every consequence for violation. Long-range sensor arrays continued their automated sweeps despite the new restrictions. Anomalous contacts registered near the outer marker of human-controlled space. 3 vessels, drifting slow, their energy signatures unlike any Council design pattern. Their profiles didn't match known trader routes or military patrol formations. The sensor tech hesitated before reporting, knowing the new protocols forbade external observation. Hayes received the data with a grim set to her jaw. She issued the order system-wide, silent running protocol. All non-essential transmissions ceased. Military and civilian ships powered down to minimal emissions. Orbital habitats rotated to present their most shielded aspects to the incoming contacts. Earth's defense grid went to high alert without the usual warning sirens. The choice presented itself with cold clarity. Hide from whatever approached or prepare for potential contact against Council law. The decision came from Earth Command within minutes. All stations readied their docking ports. Defense platforms charged their weapons. Humanity would stand ready rather than cower in the dark. The approaching ships would find either welcome or destruction, but never indifference. The decree played on every frequency, every screen, every public address system. The Galactic Council's message repeated every 67 minutes exactly, a perfect loop of cold synthesized voices speaking in unison. Their reasoning offered no specifics, only vague references to galactic stability and necessary equilibrium. The translation algorithms parsed the messages for hidden meaning, but found only bureaucratic detachment. Each repetition felt less like communication and more like a verdict being stamped onto official record. Humanity's expansion had disrupted centuries of established power structures. New colonies meant new trade routes bypassing traditional Council-controlled corridors. Human resource extraction techniques operated at efficiencies that undercut established mining guilds. Our ship designs incorporated innovations that made older vessel classes obsolete. The Council viewed progress as disruption, growth as threat. Their response focused on containment rather than adaptation. 17 colonies vanished from the network simultaneously. External sensors showed no weapons fire, no planetary bombardment, no visible destruction. The blackout occurred with surgical precision across 17 star systems. Colony transmissions didn't fade or degrade. They ceased instantly at the designated enforcement moment. Relay stations went dark. Beacon signals terminated mid-pulse. The silence felt engineered, absolute and terrifying in its completeness. No explanation ever accompanied the communications termination. Requests for clarification received automated responses quoting the original decree. Demands for evidence of wrongdoing produced standardized forms requiring submission through now closed diplomatic channels. The Council's peacekeeper vessels, once symbols of galactic cooperation, appeared around each colony world within hours of the blackout. Their weapon ports remained closed, but their presence delivered the message clearly enough. Earth's diplomatic corps found their embassies sealed when they reported for duty. Alien security forces stood guard outside compounds that had welcomed interstellar visitors for generations. Personal effects remained inside the locked buildings. Data terminals showed connection-refused messages when attempting to contact Council headquarters. The diplomatic nightmare unfolded with brutal efficiency across hundreds of worlds simultaneously. Trade routes evaporated within days. Freighter captains arrived at jump points to find Council warships blocking transit lanes. Cargo manifests became worthless as markets closed to human goods. Currency exchange systems rejected terrestrial financial instruments. The economic collapse would have been total if not for Earth's previously diversified economy. Still, the sudden isolation strained global systems to their limits. 6 billion humans now occupied a prison measuring exactly one solar system in diameter. The Council's enforcement satellites appeared at the heliopause boundary, their silent vigil ensuring no ship passed inward or outward. Observation posts monitored all human activity with passive sensors. The solar system became a cage with invisible bars, its inhabitants suddenly aware of every limitation. But humanity had built fortresses before. The same industrial capacity that created colony ships now retooled for self-sufficiency. Orbital habitats increased food production. Asteroid mining operations expanded to replace lost off-world resources. Military engineers began redesigning defense systems with new priorities. The prison walls existed, but what grew within them began changing almost immediately. Every restriction became a challenge to overcome. The Cathar vessel drifted toward lunar approach vectors with its shield generators cold. Energy readings showed defensive systems at standby, weapon ports sealed, engine output at minimal levels. Its approach pattern followed civilian docking protocols from before the isolation. Sensor operators tracked its slow progress, noting the deliberate vulnerability in every system status report. The ship moved like something exhausted, its navigation precise but lacking urgency. Their transmission cut through the Council's jamming frequencies with unexpected clarity. The signal used old humanitarian broadcast channels that Earth had kept operational despite the blockade. Captain Vex's voice emerged through the static, his speech patterns translated through aging linguistic databases. His words carried the weight of multiple voices, echoes of different species speaking through a single communicator. The message repeated simple phrases of sanctuary request in 7 distinct linguistic patterns. They sought refuge from Council enforcement actions. Their requests specified no military support, no resources, no strategic partnerships. The transmission emphasized their civilian status, their non-combatant composition, their need for basic protection. They asked for what humanity itself barely maintained behind its own defensive perimeter. The request felt both impossible and inevitable given the circumstances. The Nomad's hope showed damage across its starboard hull. Energy weapons scoring marked the plating where defensive screens had failed. Micrometeorite impacts dotted the surface where repair nanites had failed to complete their work. A trailing sensor array hung by frayed cables, its housing cracked from what appeared to be nearby explosive decompression. The ship moved with the awkwardness of something patched together too many times. Life support readings registered at 17% efficiency. Atmospheric filters showed contamination levels approaching toxicity limits. Power distribution to environmental systems fluctuated with concerning irregularity. The vessel's internal temperature readings indicated failed heating elements in several sectors. Their situation would become critical within hours based on consumption rates. Luna Station's command staff debated responses in secure channels. Military advisors cited Council decree violation penalties. Diplomatic officers noted the potential precedent of accepting refugees. Security teams emphasized the risk of hidden threats within the alien vessel. The discussion cycled through protocols written for a galaxy that no longer existed. Each point carried weight, each concern legitimate. The Council's prohibition against contact remained explicit in all standing orders. Violation carried severe consequences according to the decree's final provisions. No exceptions existed for humanitarian cases. No loopholes for emergency situations. The rules offered black and white instructions with no gray areas for interpretation. Following them meant watching a ship die within visual range. But dying refugees outweighed distant bureaucratic regulations. The calculations became simple mathematics of conscience versus compliance. 37 life signs registered aboard the Cathar vessel. Their oxygen would last 6 more hours at current consumption. Luna Command made the decision without further debate. The order went out to prepare medical teams and quarantine protocols. The airlock cycle began with the hiss of equalizing pressure. Magnetic seals disengaged with heavy thumps that echoed through the docking tube. Environmental sensors verified atmosphere compatibility before granting final clearance. The inner door slid open to reveal the first of the Forsaken species. Their thin frames stood silhouetted against the dim emergency lighting of their damaged ship. They carried no visible weapons, only the desperation of those with nowhere left to go. Humanity's isolation had ended not with conquest but with compassion. The Cathar emerged from their damaged ship with limbs like winter branches. Their movements held the careful precision of creatures expecting attack at any moment. Eyes scanned the docking bay with rapid flicks, noting exit routes and potential threats. They held their weapons openly but pointed at the floor, a gesture of conditional trust. Their leader placed a data crystal beside his energy rifle on the deck plating. The crystal contained complete engineering schematics for their ship's systems, offered without conditions or requests. Draymore refugees followed hours later, their thick-bodied forms moving with deliberate slowness. Their skin showed the metallic sheen of alloy dust embedded over lifetimes of metalwork. They carried sample cases instead of weapons, each container holding exotic metal samples and crystallized data records. Their metallurgy knowledge represented generations of specialized craftsmanship. They offered technical manuals written in chemical notation that needed no translation. The samples demonstrated properties that defied current material science understanding. The ethereal collective arrived without announcement. Their ship materialized near Luna's dark side with no energy signature or drive flare. They existed as patterned energy within containment fields, their communication appearing directly on station monitors. Their formless presence challenged all biological security protocols. They transmitted mathematical concepts that rewrote fundamental physics principles. Their knowledge arrived not as data packets but as conceptual frameworks that human scientists struggled to comprehend. Each species carried the same psychological markers of systematic persecution. Medical scans showed elevated stress hormones and neural patterns consistent with long-term survival anxiety. Their stories emerged in fragmented communications, economic blockades, cultural suppression, targeted elimination of intellectual leaders. The Council's methods varied, but the outcome remained consistent: isolation and eventual extinction. They arrived not as conquerors, but as the last remnants of dying cultures. Emma Stone coordinated the conversion of cargo bays into living quarters. Her engineering teams worked round the clock installing atmospheric controls and partition walls. Temporary housing expanded through former storage areas, each section customized for different environmental needs. The Cathar required lower gravity and specific humidity levels. Draymore needed reinforced flooring and higher temperature settings. Ethereal containment fields demanded completely isolated power grids. The station's architecture adapted to accommodate impossible diversity. Dr. Kane's linguistics team faced translation matrices beyond anything in their databases. The Cathar language incorporated tonal shifts that changed word meanings based on speaker emotion. Draymore communication involved chemical scent markers alongside verbal components. Ethereal concepts required entirely new mathematical languages to express. The team worked with sleep-deprived intensity, creating communication protocols from first principles. Misunderstandings carried potential consequences ranging from diplomatic offense to physical danger. Refugee numbers surpassed Luna Station's resident population within 48 hours. Station resources stretched to their limits despite emergency rationing protocols. Life support systems operated at 130% design capacity. Medical teams worked triple shifts treating injuries and managing cross-species health concerns. The station commander approved temporary habitat expansions into restricted areas. Emergency supply shuttles launched from Earth to meet the unexpected demand. Every refugee species shared the Council's official condemnation notice. The documents arrived through back-channel communications, each bearing the same galactic seal. The charges varied from cultural contamination to technological infringement. The punishment remained identical: complete isolation and resource denial. Their crimes amounted to existing differently from council norms. Their survival became an act of defiance against enforced conformity. Humanity's first export in 7 years became sanctuary itself. The concept traveled on encrypted channels to other outlaw species. Word spread through hidden communication networks about the isolated solar system that refused council authority. Ships began arriving weekly, each carrying another group of the condemned. They brought strange technologies and unfamiliar knowledge. They received safety and protection in return. The exchange created something new in the galaxy, a place where exile became community. The Cathar refused the Council's resource taxation system. Their warrior culture valued earned possession over bureaucratic allocation. Council assessors demanded 70% of their asteroid mining output without infrastructure support. The Cathar response involved disabling tax collector ships non-lethally. They developed signal jammers that froze Council vessels in place until negotiations occurred. Their methods demonstrated tactical precision without unnecessary violence. Council bureaucrats perceived their resistance as barbaric aggression. Pacifist doctrines labeled any weapon use as primitive behavior. The Cathar belief in defensive sovereignty clashed with centralized control models. Their cultural emphasis on individual honor seemed chaotic to regulation-focused administrators. The Council filed 17 official complaints about their negotiation tactics. Each incident increased diplomatic friction until communication ceased entirely. Draymore metallurgy innovations threatened established shipbuilding conglomerates. Their alloy formulas produced hull plating 30% stronger than Council standard. Manufacturing costs fell dramatically using their crystalline growth techniques. Major shipyards saw market share erosion as smaller builders adopted Draymore methods. Council patents covered similar but inferior materials through legal technicalities. Licensing demands escalated until independent operation became impossible. The Ethereal's energy manipulation principles defied accepted physical laws. Their techniques allowed matter phase shifting without energy loss. Council science institutions declared their methods theoretically impossible. Peer review boards rejected their research papers without examination. The ethereal demonstration vessels operated without recognizable power sources. Established energy corporations lobbied for research restrictions to protect investments. Each species represented a fundamental challenge to galactic control mechanisms. The Cathar demonstrated that centralized authority could be resisted effectively. The Draymore proved that monopoly power could be broken through innovation. The ethereal showed that scientific dogma could be wrong. Their examples threatened the stability of controlled systems. The Council could not allow such demonstrations to continue unchallenged. Their homeworld suffered immediate economic isolation. Trade routes closed through Council mandate. Financial systems froze assets without warning. Supply ships diverted to alternative ports. The blockades intensified over standard time units until basic resources became scarce. Military enforcement vessels appeared after economic pressure failed. Weapons fire remained warning shots initially before escalating to disabling strikes. Council communications labeled them dangerous radicals. Official bulletins described cultural instability and technological recklessness. Security advisories warned against contact or commerce. Propaganda networks showed edited footage of isolated incidents. The narrative focused on threat rather than context. Public opinion shifted through controlled information release. Soon their very existence seemed to validate Council warnings. Refugee ships carried specialists instead of warriors. Engineers occupied most cryopods alongside scientists and technicians. Security personnel numbered fewer than 10% of complement. Their manifests showed laboratory equipment instead of weapons. Cultural archives occupied more data storage than tactical information. They fled with knowledge rather than armaments. They sought basic survival conditions away from Council space. Their requests involved atmospheric compatibility and resource sharing. No transmission mentioned territorial claims or strategic advantage. Communications emphasized peaceful coexistence and knowledge exchange. Their desperation showed in the minimal demands they presented. They asked for little because they had lost everything. Humanity offered protected status without preconditions. Earth's response required no technology transfer or military service. The agreement provided equal rights within designated zones. Shared resources came with shared responsibilities. The arrangement respected cultural differences while building common ground. Refuge became available because it had been denied elsewhere. The Forsaken found what their own governments could not provide: a place to exist without persecution. Cathar energy diagrams lay scattered across the workshop tables. Blueprints showed containment fields that focused plasma without magnetic bottles. Power conduits ran in fractal patterns that defied standard engineering principles. The designs used resonant frequencies instead of physical containment. Human engineers studied the schematics with growing recognition of their superiority. They saw efficiency levels that made current human weapons seem primitive by comparison. Each component served multiple functions in elegant simplicity. The energy requirements fell well below anything in terrestrial databases. Draymore metal samples underwent stress testing in the adjacent laboratory. Alloy plates 1 centimeter thick withstood focused plasma beams. The material dispersed thermal energy across its crystalline structure. Impact tests showed minimal deformation against kinetic projectiles. Spectral analysis revealed atomic bonding unlike any known metallurgy. The samples maintained structural integrity under pressures that should have vaporized them. Their performance metrics exceeded all military specifications for warship hulls. Ethereal energy concepts arrived as mathematical constructs rather than technical drawings. Their principles allowed manipulation of local space-time geometry. The equations described energy redirection rather than absorption. Human physicists gathered around display screens trying to comprehend the implications. Standard textbooks became obsolete within hours of receiving the data. The ethereal communicated through conceptual frameworks that bypassed conventional physics. Their knowledge represented paradigm shifts rather than incremental improvements. The refugees offered their knowledge without reservation. They provided complete technical databases and working prototypes. Their cooperation came with only one condition: continued protection from Council forces. The exchange felt imbalanced in humanity's favor, but they insisted on the terms. They considered survival adequate payment for technological treasures. The agreement created an informal research alliance across species lines. Shared goals replaced formal contracts. Dr. Miller assembled a cross-species engineering team immediately. Cathar technicians worked alongside human weapons specialists. Draymore metallurgists collaborated with material scientists. Ethereal energy patterns were interpreted through combined mathematical efforts. The workshop became a chaotic blend of languages and disciplines. Translation software struggled with technical terminology from multiple civilizations. Progress occurred through demonstration rather than explanation. Weapon systems began merging technologies within days. Cathar plasma generation units integrated with human targeting computers. The combination created beams that could adjust frequency during flight. Projectiles gained guidance capabilities that made evasion impossible. Fire control systems operated with precision previously considered theoretical. Each test firing revealed new synergistic effects between the technologies. The weapons became more than the sum of their parts. Hull designs incorporated Draymore alloys into human frame structures. The new materials allowed thinner plating with greater protection. Ship mass decreased while defensive capability increased. Structural integrity fields operated at reduced power levels. The alloy's crystalline nature distributed stress across the entire surface. Engineers recalculated ship performance parameters based on the improvements. Vessel designs that were impossible weeks before now entered production. Energy shield development utilized ethereal space-bending principles. The systems created localized gravitational lensing effects. Incoming weapons fire curved around protected vessels rather than impacting. Power consumption remained minimal compared to conventional barrier technology. The shields operated continuously without overheating concerns. Defensive systems became active rather than reactive protection measures. Survival probabilities increased exponentially with the new technology. The workshop expanded into adjacent bays as projects multiplied. Different species worked in designated areas based on environmental needs. Cathar preferred open spaces with low lighting. Draymore required high-temperature forging stations. Ethereal interaction occurred through isolated terminal clusters. The facility became a miniature galaxy of competing technologies and methods. Breakthroughs occurred daily as perspectives merged. What began as refugee assistance became technological revolution. Each species contributed pieces to a greater whole. The Alliance was building something entirely new from cast-off parts. Kithra plasma generators connected to human targeting arrays in the main test bay. The energy projectors hummed at frequencies that made the air vibrate. Target drones moved through evasion patterns 2 kilometers distant. The system tracked each drone's acceleration vectors and energy signatures. It calculated intercept points faster than human operators could process the data. The plasma bolts curved around obstacles to reach their targets. Impact patterns showed perfect center mass strikes every time. The weapons operated with efficiency that defied conventional fire control limitations. Council ship defenses could not counter the new weapon systems. Their shields were designed for straight-line projectile interception. The curving plasma paths bypassed standard defensive protocols. Their targeting computers assumed rational ballistic trajectories. The adaptive plasma followed chaotic paths to target acquisition. Each shot modified its approach based on real-time defensive readings. Standard evasion maneuvers proved ineffective against the intelligent projectiles. The technological gap became apparent within the first test sequence. Dremor alloys transformed hull construction parameters. Plating thickness decreased by 40%, while strength increased exponentially. The crystalline structure dispersed impact energy across the entire surface area. Stress fractures that would have compromised standard alloys simply vanished into the material matrix. Ship frames could now withstand impacts that previously meant certain destruction. The weight savings allowed for larger power plants and additional systems. Vessel performance specifications were rewritten across the board. Ethereal energy manipulation created defensive shields unlike anything in military databases. The systems generated localized gravitational anomalies around protected vessels. Incoming weapons fire bent away from targets without energy absorption. The shields required minimal power compared to conventional barrier technology. They could operate continuously without overheating or performance degradation. Defensive coverage became active rather than reactive protection. Ships gained survivability against overwhelming force concentrations. Each technological component represented a revolutionary advancement alone. The plasma weapons could have replaced every human naval artillery system. The Dremor alloys made previous armor designs obsolete overnight. The ethereal shields rendered current defensive measures primitive by comparison. Any single innovation would have given its possessor significant tactical advantage. The Council had suppressed each technology to maintain its power monopoly. Combined, they created an entirely new warfare paradigm. Ships could now attack with impossible precision while surviving return fire that should destroy them. Tactical doctrines developed over centuries became irrelevant against the new capabilities. Battlefield dynamics shifted from force concentration to technological superiority. The Alliance could engage larger forces with confidence in both offensive and defensive systems. Traditional naval strategies required complete reevaluation. Testing revealed unexpected synergistic effects between the systems. The plasma weapons interacted with the ethereal shields in unanticipated ways. Projectiles could pass through friendly shields without energy loss. Defensive fields could be tuned to enhance offensive weapon range and accuracy. The alloys responded to energy weapon impacts by hardening at the molecular level. Each system improved the performance of the others beyond design specifications. Weapons achieved precision that was previously considered theoretically impossible. Targeting systems could place plasma bursts within millimeters of specified coordinates at extreme ranges. The weapons could disable specific systems on enemy vessels without destroying the entire ship. Surgical strikes became routine rather than exceptional. Missile guidance systems incorporated the same technology for pinpoint accuracy. Every shot counted with mathematical certainty. Shields absorbed impacts that should have vaporized any known vessel. Test firings from multiple capital ship weapons focused on single points showed no penetration. The defensive fields distributed energy across their entire surface area. Overload scenarios that would collapse standard shields simply increased efficiency. Protection levels exceeded all previous military requirements by orders of magnitude. Survival probabilities reached near certainty against conventional attacks. The Alliance now possessed clear technological superiority over Council forces. Their ships could outshoot and outlast anything the galactic government could field. The balance of power had shifted through collaboration rather than conquest. Refugee knowledge had become the foundation for a new military reality. Council commanders would face weapons and defenses they could not comprehend. The Forsaken had forged tools that could defend their newfound sanctuary. Dremor forging techniques demanded temperatures beyond anything human industry could produce. Their metallurgical processes required sustained heat at levels that vaporized conventional containment vessels. The alien methods involved precise thermal gradients that human facilities couldn't achieve. Standard smelting operations failed to reach the necessary energy thresholds. Initial attempts resulted in contaminated alloys and damaged equipment. The technical gap seemed impossible to bridge with available resources. Human engineers adapted using orbital solar concentrators. They repositioned satellite arrays designed for energy collection. Mirrors focused sunlight into beams intense enough to melt asteroid ore. The system achieved temperatures matching Dremor specifications through brute force application. Crude but effective solutions emerged from necessity. The solar forges operated continuously, their focused light creating miniature stars within containment fields. Each facility became a testament to improvisation under constraints. The resulting alloys maintained molecular integrity under extreme stress testing. Laboratory simulations subjected samples to forces exceeding capital ship weapon impacts. The materials dispersed energy across their crystalline structures without deformation. Stress patterns showed uniform distribution rather than localized failure points. Testing equipment often broke before the samples showed any significant damage. The alloys performed beyond all theoretical limits for known metallurgy. Council weapon impacts demonstrated minimal penetration against the new alloys. Test plates withstood focused plasma beams that should have vaporized them. Kinetic projectiles deformed against surfaces that showed no cracking or fracturing. Energy weapon discharges spread across the material instead of concentrating on impact points. Defensive capabilities exceeded anything in military databases. The protection levels rendered most Council armaments effectively obsolete. Ship hulls became significantly lighter, while gaining unprecedented strength. Designers reduced plating thickness by over 40% without compromising protection. The weight savings allowed for larger power plants and additional systems. Vessel acceleration rates increased despite added defensive capabilities. Structural integrity improved despite reduced mass. The new balance between protection and performance created entirely new ship classes. Material science advanced centuries within months. The Dremor techniques revealed fundamental errors in human metallurgical understanding. Atomic bonding principles operated differently under extreme conditions. Crystal growth patterns followed mathematical sequences previously considered theoretical. Each discovery forced reevaluation of basic physical laws. Textbooks required complete rewriting to incorporate the new knowledge. Manufacturing processes evolved through continuous iteration. Assembly lines retooled for the new alloy production methods. Robotic systems adapted to handle the extreme temperature materials. Quality control protocols developed around the unique material properties. Production efficiency improved with each batch completed. The learning curve steepened dramatically as experience accumulated. Asteroid mining provided sufficient raw materials for mass production. The alloys used common elements found in abundance throughout the solar system. Refining processes extracted necessary components from ordinary rock samples. Resource scarcity became irrelevant given the available celestial bodies. Mining operations expanded to meet the sudden demand. Supply chains simplified as source material became ubiquitous. Production scaled faster than any military project in human history. Initial batches measured in kilograms per day. Within weeks, output reached metric tons hourly. Orbital forges multiplied across near-Earth space. Automated systems reduced human labor requirements dramatically. The expansion occurred with minimal bureaucratic interference. Necessity drove innovation at unprecedented speeds. Earth shipyards began retrofitting operations immediately. Dry docks modified their frameworks to accommodate the new hull materials. Construction protocols updated to include the alloy integration processes. Existing vessels received priority for defensive upgrades. New builds incorporated the technology from initial design phases. The fleet transformation occurred simultaneously across all construction facilities. Every ship gained protection that changed tactical considerations permanently. The metallurgical revolution transformed isolation into strategic advantage through material superiority. The ethereal energy manipulation systems defied established physical laws. Their equipment operated without recognizable power sources or energy signatures. Containment fields bent space-time in localized regions around their devices. Human physicists observed phenomena that contradicted fundamental principles. The energy patterns followed mathematical sequences outside known equations. Standard measurement tools returned impossible readings or complete nonsense data. The technology represented a complete paradigm shift in physical understanding. Their techniques allowed precise bending of space-time in limited areas. The effect created gravitational lensing that redirected energy and matter. Incoming weapons fire curved away from protected vessels without impact. The space distortion also affected sensor readings and targeting systems. Objects passing through the field experienced temporary mass fluctuations. The technology manipulated the fabric of reality itself, rather than opposing force with force. The defensive shields operated on completely different principles from conventional systems. Instead of absorbing energy impacts through dissipation, they bent projectiles around protected areas. Plasma bolts and kinetic rounds followed curved paths away from their targets. Energy weapons dispersed across the distorted space without concentrated impact. The defense required minimal power compared to barrier technology. It created areas where physics itself worked differently from surrounding space. Communications traveled instantaneously across any distance through their methods. Messages bypassed light speed limitations through quantum entanglement manipulation. The system allowed real-time coordination across multiple star systems. There was no signal delay regardless of separation distance. The technology made traditional FTL communication obsolete immediately. Command and control became simultaneous across the entire Alliance fleet. Human scientists struggled with the theoretical foundations. The mathematics involved concepts beyond current physical models. Equations described multidimensional interactions that made no intuitive sense. Research teams spent weeks analyzing basic principles without progress. The ethereal technology worked in practice but defied explanation in theory. The gap between application and understanding seemed impossible to bridge. The ethereal taught through practical demonstration rather than theoretical instruction. They showed technicians how to operate equipment without explaining why it worked. Their training focused on achieving desired results through specific procedures. Understanding the underlying mechanisms became secondary to successful operation. The approach frustrated human scientists but produced functional systems quickly. The methods emphasized outcome over comprehension. Results mattered more than theoretical validation. Working systems emerged from repeated trial and error testing. Engineers learned which configurations produced which effects through experimentation. The process involved adjusting controls and observing outcomes without predictive models. Success was measured by system performance rather than scientific elegance. The pragmatic approach delivered operational capabilities faster than theoretical study could. Functional systems developed through iterative testing and adjustment. Each trial provided data points for improving performance. Engineers created operational protocols based on observed results rather than calculated predictions. The systems became more reliable through continuous practical refinement. Theoretical understanding eventually followed practical application in many cases. The technology worked whether humans understood it or not. The Alliance gained capabilities the Council could not comprehend. Their sensors could not detect the energy manipulation systems. Their weapons could not overcome the space-time bending defenses. Their communication intercepts failed against instantaneous quantum networks. The technological advantage created tactical superiority through sheer incomprehensibility. Council forces faced systems that operated outside their understanding of possible physics. Physics became a practical tool rather than a theoretical limitation. The Alliance used the effects without needing to understand the causes. Equipment operated based on proven procedures rather than scientific principles. The approach allowed rapid deployment of capabilities that should have taken centuries to develop. Practical application trumped theoretical perfection in every operational scenario. The technology worked, and that became the only fact that mattered for survival. Dr. Miller observed the quantum entanglement particles spinning in their containment field. Their paired movements mirrored each other across any separation distance. The ethereal energy pattern shimmered around the apparatus, bending space within the experimental chamber. She combined the two technologies through a series of precise adjustments. The resulting system created communication channels that ignored conventional physics. Messages could now travel between points without transmission delay. The new comm system defied all light speed limitations. Information moved instantaneously regardless of distance between units. A signal from Pluto reached Earth in the same moment it was sent. Communications between star systems occurred without light years of lag. The technology made traditional FTL messaging obsolete immediately. Command decisions could now be executed across galactic distances in real time. The strategic implications were immediately apparent to everyone in the lab. Messages traveled with perfect synchronization across the network. There was no packet loss or signal degradation over distance. Data integrity remained flawless regardless of transmission range. The system operated on principles that bypassed normal space-time constraints. Communications became immediate rather than delayed. The technology changed fundamental assumptions about information transfer. The network remained invisible to Council sensor technology. Their detection systems searched for energy signatures and transmission patterns that didn't exist. The quantum ethereal comms left no detectable radiation trail. Signals passed through monitored space without triggering any alarms. Council monitoring stations reported complete silence across all frequencies. Their entire surveillance infrastructure became useless against the new technology. Battlefield coordination transformed into real-time operation across the galaxy. Fleet commanders could direct ships in different systems simultaneously. Tactical updates reached all units at the same moment. Formation adjustments occurred with perfect synchronization. Unit commanders received identical situational awareness regardless of location. The fog of war lifted through perfect communication links. Tactical advantages multiplied with each connected unit. Fleet movements could be coordinated with precision previously impossible. Ambush tactics became more effective with instant communication. Retreat signals reached all ships before enemies could react. The coordination capability created force multipliers beyond numerical superiority. Each ship became more effective through perfect information sharing. The Council's lag-based warfare doctrine became completely obsolete. Their tactics relied on delayed communications between fleet elements. Command decisions took hours or days to reach distant units. This time gap had always been part of their strategic calculations. Now they faced an enemy that operated without any communication delay. Their entire military doctrine needed fundamental revision. General Long studied the new capabilities with tactical precision. She envisioned fleet maneuvers spanning multiple star systems simultaneously. Ambush patterns could be set across entire sectors. Defensive networks could coordinate intercepts with perfect timing. The strategic possibilities expanded beyond previous limitations. Warfare could now be conducted on a truly galactic scale. Fleets began coordinating across separate star systems during exercises. Ships in different regions executed complex maneuvers simultaneously. Attack patterns formed across light years of space with perfect synchronization. Defense networks responded to threats before they fully materialized. The coordination demonstrated capabilities the Council couldn't match. The Alliance gained its greatest weapon through information superiority. Perfect knowledge of friendly positions enabled aggressive tactics. Enemy movements could be tracked and countered with maximum efficiency. Resource allocation became optimized across the entire theater of operations. The communication advantage proved more valuable than any weapon system. Information became the ultimate strategic asset in the new warfare paradigm. The simulation began with 4 Alliance ships approaching a converted asteroid station. The facility featured standard Council defensive systems and garrison protocols. Long-range sensors tracked the exercise from observation posts across the solar system. Command staff monitored data streams from secure facilities deep within Luna. This was the first full-scale test of integrated capabilities against realistic opposition. The results would determine readiness for potential combat operations. Multi-species crews operated their stations with practiced efficiency. Cathar tactical officers sat beside human weapons specialists. Draymore engineers monitored power distribution alongside ethereal energy technicians. Communication flowed through the quantum ethereal network without translation delay. Each species contributed their unique capabilities to the whole. The crew functioned as a single organism rather than separate entities. Their coordination demonstrated months of intensive training and shared experience. Cathar tactical analysis directed human weapon systems with precision. Their battle algorithms calculated optimal firing solutions faster than human reaction times. Plasma bolts curved around asteroid debris to strike simulated shield generators. The targeting patterns followed non-linear paths that Council systems couldn't predict. Each shot disabled critical systems without unnecessary destruction. The combination of alien strategy and human technology created devastating efficiency. Draymore alloy hulls absorbed concentrated defensive fire without significant damage. The simulated station poured energy weapons into the approaching ships. Impact readings showed minimal penetration against the advanced materials. Sensor feeds displayed stress distribution across the crystalline structures. The hulls maintained integrity under fire that should have vaporized standard vessels. Defensive systems operated well within their safety margins throughout the engagement. Ethereal shields protected ships during vulnerable attack maneuvers. The space-bending fields deflected incoming fire during precision bombing runs. Vessels executed high-risk approaches that would have been suicidal with conventional protection. The shields created safe corridors through defensive weapon envelopes. Ships moved with confidence through areas that should have been certain death. The technology enabled tactics previously considered impossible. The mock station's defenses failed within 10 minutes of engagement. Shield generators collapsed under precisely targeted plasma strikes. Weapon systems disabled through coordinated attacks on power conduits. Communication arrays fell silent after surgical strikes on transmission nodes. The facility shifted to emergency power within 8 minutes. Complete systems failure occurred 90 seconds later. The speed of defeat surprised even the exercise planners. Council response times proved completely inadequate against the coordinated assault. Simulated reinforcement requests went unanswered due to communication jamming. Defensive rotations occurred too slowly to counter the agile attackers. Weapons tracking systems couldn't maintain target locks on the maneuvering ships. The station's automated defenses were overwhelmed by the simultaneous multi-vector attack. Traditional battle protocols failed against the unconventional tactics. Established battle lines became irrelevant against the new warfare doctrine. Ships operated in scattered formations rather than traditional fleet arrangements. Attacks came from unexpected angles and ranges. Defensive patterns shifted constantly to avoid predictability. The Alliance vessels refused to engage in conventional slugging matches. They struck where the enemy was weakest rather than where they were strongest. Adaptation and improvisation defined the new combat methodology. Crews adjusted tactics based on real-time sensor data. Weapons officers modified firing solutions during projectile flight. Engineers redirected power to systems showing unexpected stress. The approach emphasized flexibility over rigid doctrine. Each crew member exercised initiative within the broader battle plan. The system rewarded creative problem-solving under pressure. The demonstration proved the Alliance's combat readiness beyond any doubt. Ships returned to dock with minimal simulated damage. Crew performance metrics showed exceptional coordination under stress. Systems integration performed flawlessly throughout the exercise. The capabilities displayed would be devastating against actual Council forces. The mock battle validated years of technological development and cross-species training. The Forsaken had become formidable. Volani Station Alpha 7 transmitted its distress call across all emergency frequencies. The signal showed multiple breaches along the outer hull sections. Energy weapon impacts registered across their defensive grid. The station's transmission specifically mentioned slave-taking operations in progress. They reported Korak boarding parties targeting residential sectors. Their communication ended with a plea for immediate military assistance. The Korak Empire operated with clear predatory intent. Their ships carried specialized docking clamps for vessel capture. Sensor readings showed life-form containment fields active across their fleet. Intelligence profiles indicated they valued biological resources over territorial gains. Their tactics focused on disabling defenses rather than destruction. Prisoner acquisition remained their primary operational objective. Their fleet size overwhelmed local defensive capabilities. 37 warships surrounded the Volani station. Their formation showed professional military coordination. Weapons fire came in coordinated volleys against weak points. The station's shields faded under sustained bombardment. Return fire caused minimal damage to the attacking vessels. The outcome seemed inevitable without external intervention. The Galactic Council responded to Volani's plea with formal neutrality. Their communique cited non-interference protocols with expansionist empires. They offered diplomatic channels for conflict resolution. The response ignored the immediate tactical situation. Council vessels remained outside the conflict zone. Their inaction guaranteed the station's eventual capture. Alpha 7's destruction became a matter of time. Their power systems showed critical depletion. Life support failures began in outer sectors. Defense platforms fell silent one by one. The Korak boarding parties advanced toward the core sections. Station security forces reported being overwhelmed. Final transmission indicated they were falling back to last defensive positions. The Alliance faced its first operational moral test. Sensor data showed civilian population markers throughout the station. Correct tactics indicated intentional capture of biological specimens. Their historical patterns showed brutal treatment of conquered species. The Volani were peaceful researchers with minimal military capability. Their extermination would serve no strategic purpose. Intervention risked revealing their technological capabilities. The quantum ethereal comms network remained their greatest secret. Advanced weapons and shield systems would draw immediate council attention. Engagement might prompt broader galactic conflict. The Alliance remained unprepared for full-scale war. Secrecy had been their primary defense until now. Non-intervention meant permitting genocide. The Korak would dissect the Volani for biological information. Their children would be sold across imperial slave markets. The station would become another imperial resource extraction point. The Volani culture would cease to exist as an independent entity. Their knowledge would be absorbed into the imperial war machine. Humanity's new mandate faced immediate practical challenge. The Alliance had formed to protect the Forsaken. Their entire existence opposed such blatant predation. Failure to act would invalidate their moral foundation, but premature engagement could destroy everything they had built. The decision would define their identity going forward. The command staff reached consensus within minutes. 4 warships began preparation for immediate deployment. Their crews received combat readiness notifications. Weapon systems activated from standby mode. Engine reactors switched to full combat output. The ships detached from their docking cradles. They moved toward the jump point for Volani space. The decision was made. They would answer the call. The UE's Vengeance detached from its docking cradle with a low thrum of activating systems. Its angular hull reflected the distant sun in sharp, dark lines. Weapon ports along its surface glowed with contained energy. The ship moved with deliberate purpose toward the jump coordinates. Its designation as flagship reflected its combat capabilities and command systems. Navigation computers calculated the optimal approach vector to Volani space. 3 additional warships formed the battle group around the Vengeance. UES Liberty maintained position off the starboard flank, its sensors scanning ahead. UES Freedom held the port side with weapons at ready status. UES Constitution brought up the rear, monitoring for potential pursuit. Each vessel represented different aspects of the technological synthesis. Their formation provided mutual defense coverage and tactical flexibility. Every ship showcased Alliance technological integration. Kithra plasma generators powered human-designed engine systems. Dremor alloy plating protected ethereal energy core installations. Sensor arrays combined multiple detection methodologies across species. The vessels operated as complete systems rather than collections of parts. Their capabilities exceeded anything built by single-species engineering. The synthesis created entirely new classifications of warship. Crew composition reflected the collaborative nature of the operation. Human officers worked beside Cathar tactical specialists. Dremor engineers monitored structural integrity systems. Ethereal technicians operated the quantum communication arrays. Each station combined different physiological capabilities and cognitive approaches. Communication flowed through translation systems without significant delay. The crews functioned as unified teams despite biological differences. The journey to Alpha 7 served as an extended systems test. Engine performance exceeded design specifications during sustained FTL travel. Shield generators maintained stable operation across multiple light-year transitions. Weapons systems conducted live-fire exercises against asteroid targets. Each test provided valuable data on integrated system performance. The vessels demonstrated reliability under extended operational conditions. Quantum ethereal comms maintained constant contact with Earth Command. Situational updates arrived instantaneously despite the distance. Tactical analysis flowed both directions without transmission delay. Command decisions could be implemented in real time across light years. The system provided strategic coordination previously considered impossible. Council monitoring systems detected no communications traffic. Battle planning occurred throughout the transit period. Tactical officers analyzed Volani station schematics and defense layouts. Korak ship capabilities were compared against Alliance weapon performance. Engagement scenarios were simulated using the quantum computing network. Contingency plans were developed for multiple outcome possibilities. The planning continued right up to arrival at the combat zone. The Korak fleet numbers appeared overwhelming on initial sensor readings. 37 warships maintained siege positions around the station. Their formation followed standard Imperial invasion patterns. Weapons coverage overlapped to prevent any escape attempts. Their numbers suggested conventional military superiority. Standard tactical analysis would recommend avoidance against such odds. Alliance forces numbered only 4 vessels against the Imperial fleet. The disparity seemed impossible to overcome through conventional means. But each Alliance ship carried capabilities far beyond their size classification. Their technological advantages created force multipliers that changed the calculation. Numerical inferiority became irrelevant against qualitative superiority. The 4 ships represented concentrated power rather than limited resources. Their arrival changed the tactical situation immediately. Korak sensors detected the new contacts but could not classify them properly. Their weapon systems registered unusual energy signatures. Formation adjustments began as the Imperial Command assessed the threat. The Volani station registered the arrival with renewed hope. The balance of power had shifted with the appearance of 4 dark shapes against the stars. Morrison's team cycled through the airlock with weapons ready. The station's atmosphere carried the sharp scent of ozone and burnt insulation. Their boots connected with the deck plating in synchronized movements. Each team member covered a specific sector of the reception area. Their formation showed years of combat experience in every precise motion. The Volani Guardians watched with obvious apprehension at their entrance. Their combat readiness became immediately apparent through equipment and posture. Body armor showed recent combat scoring and hasty repairs. Weapon safeties clicked off in near unison as they cleared the area. Helmet displays projected targeting data across their field of vision. Communication channels remained open with minimal chatter. Every movement served both defensive and observational purposes. Weapons covered all potential angles of approach in the docking bay. Rifles pointed toward ceiling vents and floor grating with equal attention. Sidearms remained in quick-draw holsters with retention straps disengaged. Grenade pouches hung open for immediate access. The team moved as a single entity with overlapping fields of fire. Their coverage left no blind spots or unprotected zones. Eyes constantly scanned the environment for threats. Heads turned in smooth arcs that covered entire visual fields. Peripheral vision monitored movement in shadowed areas. Weapon-mounted lights illuminated dark corners in brief flashes. Retinal scanners documented structural weaknesses in the station's design. No detail escaped their professional assessment of the space. Sergeant Rodriguez maintained constant threat assessment throughout the entry. His weapon never settled on any single point for more than 2 seconds. His head movements showed systematic scanning patterns. Finger positions stayed outside trigger guards until target identification. His breathing remained steady despite the tactical tension. Experience showed in every controlled motion. Chief Johnson assessed station damage with engineering precision. His eyes tracked cracked support beams and leaking conduit lines. He noted failing atmospheric seals around the docking ring. Energy weapon scoring marked bulkhead surfaces at specific heights. His tablet recorded structural integrity readings automatically. Damage assessment became part of the security sweep. The Volani elders approached with cautious gestures of greeting. Their slender forms moved with deliberate slowness. Light patterns across their skin showed agitation and relief simultaneously. They offered traditional welcome gestures with trembling appendages. Their eyes focused on the human weapons with obvious concern. Gratitude and fear competed in their body language. They recognized the dangerous capability represented by the human team. Weapon designs showed advanced manufacturing techniques. Armor materials defied easy classification. Movement coordination indicated intense training. Their assessment concluded these were professional soldiers. Peaceful researchers faced warriors from a death world. Morrison demanded tactical data without diplomatic formalities. His voice carried through the damaged bay with clear authority. He requested enemy positions and force composition immediately. Time for pleasantries didn't exist with combat ongoing. The station's survival depended on rapid information transfer. His focus remained entirely on the military situation. The lead elder questioned their true intentions behind the rescue. Light patterns flickered with suspicion and hope. Did they want resources or technological knowledge? Would they become new masters replacing the Korak? The question hung in the air between species. Trust required more than just appearance. Morrison's response cut through the tension with simple clarity. "We're here because you asked." The statement needed no elaboration or qualification. Help had been requested and help had been provided. The Alliance operated on that basic principle. Their presence defined their intentions more than words could. The Volani elders gathered in their council chamber as impacts shook the station. Their slender forms clustered around the central holo display showing external camera feeds. The debate began with cautious hand gestures and flickering skin patterns. Some elders argued against alliance with Deathworlders from a Class 12 planet. Their language showed clear apprehension about exchanging one master for another. The human military demeanor suggested potential for future domination. Other elders countered with survival necessity arguments. They pointed to the Karak boarding parties advancing through outer sectors. Their gestures indicated immediate threat versus potential future risk. The discussion balanced certainty of capture against possibility of partnership. Ancient Volani texts warned against trusting warriors but also emphasized preservation of species. The philosophical debate continued as structural alerts flashed across displays. Humanity's intervention occurred without Galactic Council approval. This independence created both concern and opportunity for the Volani. Council rejection might mean these humans operated outside established norms, but it also meant they answered to no authority but their own. The lack of oversight could mean greater flexibility in response, or it could indicate dangerous unpredictability in their actions. The Korak assault continued without pause during the deliberations. Weapon impacts registered along the station's weakening shields. Damage reports showed progressive system failures across multiple sectors. Boarding parties advanced methodically through residential zones. Each minute brought the invaders closer to the central chambers. The elders faced dwindling time for careful consideration. Debate time shortened with every impact tremor through the deck. The elder circle showed increasing agitation in their movements. Traditional Volani decision-making required consensus through extended discussion. The emergency situation allowed no such luxury. Some elders advocated for immediate alliance while others urged caution. The division threatened to paralyze their response capability. Morrison's team worked while the elders debated. They set up defensive positions at key choke points. Weapons were distributed to Volani security forces who lacked combat experience. Medical stations were established for anticipated casualties. The humans operated with efficiency that contrasted with the deliberative process. Their actions showed focus on immediate threat mitigation. The team's preparation spoke more clearly than diplomatic promises. They calibrated weapons to Volani physiological specifications. They modified defense plans to protect cultural artifacts. Their efforts demonstrated respect for Volani values alongside military necessity. The actions built credibility through practical support rather than verbal assurances. Observation of their work influenced the elders' perceptions. The calculation eventually became brutally simple for the Volani. Trust the humans and potentially face future uncertainty, or reject assistance and face certain capture by the Korak. The Empire's treatment of prisoners was well documented in intelligence reports. Slavery and dissection awaited those taken captive. The choice resolved to probable risk versus guaranteed destruction. The lead elder finally ended the debate with a decisive gesture. The decision came from necessity rather than complete confidence. Alliance was preferable to annihilation regardless of future consequences. The Volani would trust the Deathworlders because they had no better option. Survival demanded acceptance of uncertain partnership. The calculation was made. The Alliance transformed exile into strategic advantage through necessity. Their isolation forced cooperation across species lines. The Council's rejection became their greatest strength. Each outcast civilization brought unique capabilities to the collective. They turned punishment into opportunity through shared purpose. The solar system became a fortress of innovation rather than a prison of limitation. Their strength emerged from diversity of experience and perspective. Cathar warriors understood tactical improvisation beyond textbook doctrine. Dremor metallurgists recognized material properties invisible to scanners. Ethereal physicists manipulated energy through non-linear mathematics. Human engineers integrated these approaches into practical systems. The combination created capabilities no single species could achieve. Diversity became their operational advantage rather than social challenge. Council outcasts became co-equal partners in the new structure. Command positions rotated based on mission requirements rather than species origin. Research teams mixed biological types with complementary skills. Each voice carried equal weight in strategic planning. The hierarchy valued competence over tradition. This approach maximized available talent without artificial limitations. Partnership replaced patronage as the operating principle. Warfare doctrine leveraged each species' innate capabilities. Cathar directed engagement strategies using their predatory instincts. Draymore designed ship hulls that exploited their material knowledge. Ethereal operated sensor systems that interpreted space-time anomalies. Humans coordinated the integration of these specialized functions. The military structure became a precision instrument, with each component performing its optimal role. Traditional battle formations gave way to adaptive team configurations. The Volani represented potential new members with unique qualifications. Their scientific methodologies complemented existing military focus. Research capabilities could accelerate technological development further. Their peaceful nature balanced the Alliance's warrior elements. Inclusion would demonstrate the collaborative model's expanding appeal. Each new species increased the collective's resilience and adaptability. Every rescued species added to collective strength through specialization. The Chithroplasma technology enhanced offensive capabilities. Dremor alloys revolutionized defensive systems. Ethereal energy manipulation enabled unprecedented mobility. Each contribution filled gaps in the Alliance's capabilities. The whole became greater than the sum of its parts through careful integration. No single species could match the combined potential. The galaxies discarded became its greatest threat to established powers. Those deemed unfit for council membership now challenged its authority. Outcasts built a civilization that surpassed their former rulers. The Council's rejection criteria became the Alliance's recruitment qualifications. What was thrown away now threatened to reshape galactic order. The forgotten became unforgettable through their achievements. To Council powers, this development seemed logically impossible. Their models predicted fragmentation and failure among mixed species groups. Historical data showed incompatible cultures collapsing under stress. The Alliance defied all established sociological predictions. Their success appeared to violate fundamental principles of interspecies dynamics. The Council dismissed early reports as censor errors or propaganda. To the Alliance, their evolution felt inevitable given the circumstances. Survival demanded setting aside traditional prejudices. Cooperation offered the only path forward against overwhelming opposition. Each species recognized their dependence on the others. The arrangement developed naturally from shared necessity. What began as temporary alliance became permanent partnership through demonstrated success. They built together what none could build alone. Warships combined technologies from multiple civilizations. Research facilities integrated disparate scientific traditions. Military strategies blended combat philosophies across species lines. The collaboration created advantages that could not be replicated through individual effort. Collective achievement exceeded all possible individual accomplishments. The Forsaken found strength in their former weakness. Earth's influence now extended well beyond the orbit of Mars. Outposts and listening stations dotted the solar system, each reporting directly to Alliance Command. The expansion occurred without Council permission or even notification. Human-built structures now occupied zones once considered neutral or inaccessible. The Alliance claimed territory through presence rather than negotiation. Their sovereignty grew through practical occupation. Shipyards rose throughout the asteroid belt, their construction platforms illuminated by focused sunlight. Massive frameworks took shape between Ceres and Vesta, building vessels that combined multiple technologies. Dry docks accommodated ships larger than anything previously constructed in human space. Production rates accelerated with each new facility coming online. The belt became the Alliance's primary military-industrial complex. Its output determined their strategic capabilities. Research stations occupied previously empty regions of space. Laboratories floated in high orbits around gas giants, studying atmospheric phenomena. Deep space installations monitored cosmic radiation and gravitational anomalies. Each facility combined scientific disciplines from multiple species. The research focused on practical applications rather than theoretical knowledge. Discoveries moved directly from laboratories to production lines. Cultural exchange became the engine of technological innovation. Cathar combat simulations incorporated human logistical models. Draymore Forge Masters studied ethereal energy distribution patterns. Language barriers fell as specialized translation software improved. Shared meals in station cafeterias led to unexpected collaborative breakthroughs. Understanding different perspectives solved problems that seemed insoluble from single viewpoints. Cath-Thur tactical doctrine merged seamlessly with human supply chain management. Their aggressive engagement strategies now accounted for ammunition expenditure rates and repair timelines. Human logisticians incorporated Cath-Thur rapid assessment techniques into resource allocation. The combination created combat efficiency that maximized offensive potential without overextension. Each element enhanced the other's effectiveness. Draymore engineering principles combined with ethereal theoretical frameworks. Metal forging techniques incorporated energy manipulation during crystallization. The resulting materials exhibited properties that defied conventional classification. Structural components gained adaptive capabilities based on environmental conditions. The synthesis created substances that responded to threats dynamically. Engineering became an active rather than passive discipline. The Galactic Council's rigid hierarchical structure seemed increasingly obsolete. Their species-specific technology development created isolated advancements without integration. Military doctrines followed traditional patterns that had remained unchanged for centuries. Bureaucratic processes slowed adaptation to new threats. The Alliance's flexible approach outperformed their outdated models. Tradition became their greatest weakness. Unity through diversity demonstrated clear combat effectiveness. Multi-species crews operated with coordination that monocultural forces couldn't match. Battlefield improvisation occurred across communication and cultural barriers. Different problem-solving approaches created adaptive tactical responses. The combination proved more resilient than any single species' capabilities. Effectiveness came from integration rather than homogeneity. The Alliance sought no approval from the Galactic Council for their actions. Expansion occurred without diplomatic notification or permission. Military development followed internal requirements rather than external regulations. Research pursued avenues the Council had declared forbidden or impossible. Their independence became their defining characteristic. External validation became irrelevant to their operations. They wrote new rules for civilization based on practical necessity. Laws emphasized mutual protection and shared advancement. Governance involved representatives from all member species equally. Justice focused on restoration rather than punishment. The system valued contribution over tradition. Their society became what they needed, rather than what others permitted. The Forsaken built a future on their own terms. Jake Morrison watched the Alliance take shape from his command station. He saw beyond the immediate military applications to the broader vision taking form. The integration of species wasn't just tactical, it was philosophical. Each civilization contributed pieces to something larger than their individual cultures. The Alliance represented a new model for interstellar cooperation. Morrison understood they were building more than a defense force. They were creating a prototype for galactic civilization based on mutual respect rather than domination. Emma Stone's refugee camp evolved into a cultural exchange center. Temporary housing units became classrooms for language instruction. Common areas hosted technology demonstrations and scientific collaborations. The facility transformed from emergency shelter to intellectual marketplace. Different species shared knowledge without reservation or competition. Breakthroughs occurred through accidental conversations during meal services. The camp became the beating heart of the Alliance's innovation engine. What began as humanitarian effort became cultural renaissance. Veterans from multiple species shared combat experiences in debriefing sessions. Cath-Thur warriors described council enforcement tactics against their homeworld. Human soldiers explained terrestrial warfare evolution. Draymore engineers detailed imperial suppression methods. The exchange created a comprehensive understanding of opposition capabilities. Stories of loss and resistance built bonds across biological divides. Shared trauma became the foundation for mutual trust. Veterans recognized similar patterns in each other's experiences despite different origins. The Forsaken built something greater than their individual capabilities. Their collaboration produced technologies that defied conventional physics. Their shared governance model challenged traditional power structures. Their military doctrines combined the best of multiple combat philosophies. Each species contributed strengths that compensated for others' limitations. The whole became exponentially more capable than its parts. They demonstrated that diversity could be converted into strategic advantage through proper integration. The galaxy's isolation forced innovation through necessity. Cut off from external resources, they developed superior alternatives. Denied traditional materials, they created better substitutes. Blockaded from established trade routes, they built self-sufficient economies. Each restriction became a challenge to overcome rather than a limitation to accept. The Council's punishment became the catalyst for unprecedented advancement. Adversity bred capability where comfort might have maintained stagnation. Humanity's openness created opportunity from crisis. Willingness to accept refugees brought unexpected technological windfalls. Readiness to share resources built loyal partnerships. Commitment to ping-dong treatment fostered genuine cooperation. The approach turned desperate situations into strategic advantages. What appeared to be humanitarian gestures became military assets. Compassion and practicality merged into effective policy. The open-door philosophy yielded dividends beyond calculation. Other Council refugees began seeking Earth through hidden channels. Word spread through outlaw communication networks about the sanctuary system. Species facing Council persecution calculated the risks of escape. Their ships arrived damaged but determined, carrying knowledge and desperation. Each new group expanded the Alliance's capabilities and perspectives. The flow of refugees became constant, though carefully managed. Earth's reputation grew as the only place offering true sanctuary. The Alliance grew without formal declaration or ceremony. Membership required only commitment to mutual defense and knowledge sharing. There were no complex treaties or lengthy negotiations. Partnership developed through demonstrated actions rather than signed documents. The arrangement remained flexible enough to accommodate different cultures. Growth occurred organically as trust developed between species. The lack of formal structure became its greatest strength. Their very existence challenged the galactic status quo fundamentally. A coalition of outcasts now possessed superior technology and coordination. Their success undermined Council authority and control mechanisms. Traditional power balances shifted without diplomatic conferences or declarations. The Alliance demonstrated that alternative models could not only survive but thrive. Their example threatened established hierarchies across civilized space. Exile became the foundation for renewal rather than extinction. The isolated solar system transformed into a hub of innovation and cooperation. Discarded species found purpose and protection within its boundaries. What began as punishment became the seed for something entirely new. The Alliance represented not just survival but evolution. They built a future from the pieces others had thrown away. The Forsaken were forging tomorrow from the fragments of yesterday. The galaxy expected isolation to fracture humanity. The decree was designed to force surrender through resource deprivation and despair. Instead, we forged something far stronger from the fragments. Our solar system became a crucible, combining the outcast and the exiled into a new alloy of civilizations. Advanced technology was born from shared desperation and diverse genius. What they intended as our end became our true beginning. Earth is no longer just a planet of origin. It is a sanctuary, a fortress, a home. Its population now includes everyone the galaxy tried to discard. Welcome to the new Alliance.